So have you ever had one of those times where it's just like you decide to order something, right? And then you're just like, oh, I'll just have like a little piece of it now, and then I'll have the rest of it later.
No, I don't do that because when I order something, I'm ordering it because I'm hungry enough to eat it all. Why the fuck would I order something and only eat part of it?
Normally, it's just like timing, because sometimes that happens with.
Again, why the fuck would I order something at a time where I'm not hungry enough to eat all of it?
No, no, I'm not saying not to eat all of it. I'm saying like the timing of it because there's like some stupid fucking delay that happens. And you're just like, oh well, I can't eat the full thing even though I want to, so I'm gonna have to hold off until I finish this up and then go back to it. Because that's what happened with my fucking Uber Eats order. Because I
Why
was
would
like,
I?
okay, I'm just gonna order this out. Um, it should arrive by like 3ish or something. Worst case scenario, I'll get my other stuff done and finishing that up. And it arrived like 5 minutes ago. So I was just like, okay, great. Well, I'm gonna have to hold off on this for a bit. But also, it's weird to think that we're now in the springtime because of the fact that I've been so used to the cold up here.
Mm,
It's always interesting when it's like, ah, yes, here's something new, different forms of weather that isn't freezing. Mm. But anyway, welcome to the another episode of the Hazard Cast, brought to you by me and Saf. And
mm.
so initially this was supposed to be earlier, but schedules were a bit busy for me, so I wasn't able to really get that hosted up. And and also like, conflicts of that. But I feel like what we're going to be doing today, at least what we're going to talk about, is obviously we're going to talk about the Witch Queen because it has been almost like what I think we're on three almost 4 weeks since it came out.
Something like
Actually,
that.
yeah, something like that. I know that like it was 4 weeks as of the 22nd um of March, so we know that that's coming up. And also, funny enough, a little bit more for Bungie. But we'll hold off on that until after we kind of give our reviews of kind of like Witch Queen, at least kind of like a after we kind of gone through everything with it. Now, initially when it came to the review, I was kind of hoping that we would do it a little bit early, but again, like I said before, conflict issues of scheduling and all that stuff. So, And also, I think it's better off that we actually do it now because of the fact that we have so much time into it and we kind of have better understanding of like all the new things that came through. Even though we kind of got that like what one within the week that the raid dropped. Because I think what just with the raid, everything else kind of opened up. Like we got new story missions, we got the new exotic mission that we did, and other stuff like that.
No, the exotic mission opened up before the raid, though.
Did it? I thought it opened up at. I'm talking about the glaive one, not the parasite one.
Oh, the glaive one.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Sorry for the confusion on that one. But anyway,
You can't just say exotic quest and expect me to understand. Dude, there's 3 exotic quests in this game.
that's true. Yeah, and only one of them was after the raid drop. But anyway, so with that being said, uh, I think personally for me, and this is coming from my end, I think Bungie outdid themselves with this. I think they did a very good job with everything involved with it. The campaign was great, especially when it goes through, like if you go through it on Legendary, it feels, it actually feels like a decent campaign. Like, yes, it is like you're fighting powerful enemies, and it is a big of a pain. But and honestly, I still like it. I think the world itself is really nice. albeit there is the fact of only one location, but let's be real, everything can be like a can be traveled to via Sparrow. There isn't any like limitations on that.
I hate the idea that one location is a problem since most DLCs are only one location.
I mean,
The only time an expansion ever brought more than one was Forsaken. That has been the only example, and that is an exception to the rule.
100%.
No other expansion has ever done more than one. Taken King, the one that people hold a golden standard to, only one location.
Yeah. I
Like I
still
just think the idea that an expansion needs two locations to be amazing is stupid.
Well, the good thing is that within this like this part right, like within the throne world, it feels like two separate areas, like two separate locations that are literally just within one transmat, like within one transmat location, which is nice. And then we also have that little like small little enclave space that also is there. That's it's like, oh hey, you're back on Mars, even though it's like not Mars. And so with that, the fact that it's like so different, I feel like we technically did get two locations. Just the only difference is that instead of traveling from one destination to another like we did back in Forsaken, it's just a sparrow ride away. And I think that's great. And also, with that being said, the campaign itself, what the fuck? Like I will always say, like, I thought that okay, they can't really go like any bigger than Forsaken. And then they do. And I think they did it in a much better way too. Because if I remember correctly in Forsaken, there was a lot of like, small little filler things that we had to do, like filler quests that was like gone through, and that was just to kind of like lengthen. It's like, oh yeah, you got to do this right here in this little area, which is like not too, which is wasn't too bad. But when you really look at it compared to Witch Queen, it's it seems like wow, I can't
I think
believe we actually.
Forsaken shares the same problem that Beyond Light has, and that a good majority of the campaign is just hunting down lieutenants, basically.
Oh yeah, that was like the one thing that I like. That was kind of the one issue with it that I'm glad that they did kind of fix is that there wasn't any like specific lieutenants that we were going after. You know, it
Yeah,
wasn't
like
like
there was a boss in it on almost every mission,
yeah,
but those bosses were not like lieutenants or anything. We didn't know we were going to be fighting bosses,
yeah,
and it was more about like a specific objective.
and also the fact of the fights themselves were all very unique, and they were all based around that specific location, which is always nice. It wasn't anything like, oh yeah, we have to do the same thing like three different times, or we have to do XYZ in three different locations. It was great because it was you get to fight the Cabal in the pyramid, which is a really weird scenario when it comes down to it if you actually look at like what we did beforehand. And then we have taking care of the Scorn, and then also the final fight that was dramatic and insane. And also I like the fact that it was like in multiple different areas. Like it was just like the first initial part, and then the second place was like right across the area, kind of like your second health bar type deal.
Hmm.
And then what else? There was like I don't know. There's just so much to it. I mean, every single little like encounter area.
There was a lot of wild moments in it, especially when you go down into the Temple of Cunning and you get the worm, and then all of a sudden you pick up the worm familiar,
Yep.
and just out of nowhere,
Hey, welcome to the Dreaming City.
an illusion of the Ahamkara appears.
I think
And
that
at first you can't help but wonder, did Riven get brought back to life somehow?
That's exactly what I thought too. I was just like, wait, hold the fuck up. What is this?
Yeah.
We killed that. But then it
Yeah,
was
there's that moment of like shock that the campaign pulls off multiple moments in multiple different ways that are shocking, that just kind of like really mess with the player in a way that like felt a lot more natural than anything else in the game before then.
oh, 100%. I mean, the good thing about it too is that it wasn't like, oh, this was out of left field. This was expected, but also unexpected because of the fact of like we did not expect to see an Ahamkara come up out of left, like after we pick up a familiar. But it was the fact that it was like dealing with Savathun that we had this expectations. Like, okay, there should be some tricks involved. Like, we shouldn't be like surprised about anything, but it's still just like, yeah, well, how about we go back to the Dreaming City for like a bit? And I think the one thing is that they also gave more, like, I wouldn't say more screen time, but more like focus on the scorn as well, because we've had it where it's like we focused a lot on like the Fallen during like Beyond Light, the Hive during the Shadow Keep, and then Forsaken was like the only time, and even then it was just like not as much as it could have been because it was again just focused solely on the lieutenants, and that was that. There wasn't anything about like the huge forces that are coming in, and if there weren't like a huge impact compared to it. And so them actually kind of bringing in the fact of like, yes, the Scorn are now moving in, and it's also something that's kind of persisted throughout the entire time because even when you finish the campaign, you still get like you still go through the story missions, and you're still dealing with the Scorn in different, and it still has an impact on what's going on. And I think that's just a really good thing that they've done when it comes to that. Now, outside of just the stuff, the plot twists within that is just, I think, was perfect. The way that they set that up, the way that they done,
I'm
everything.
surprised. I'm surprised that out of all the things that like we everyone predicted, they did the one thing we didn't expect as far as like how something got the light.
I still am
And I think that's kind of
impressed.
wild. I think that's kind of like wild that Bungie managed to surprise everyone.
I think the one thing is that
And I think part of that is because of how they marketed the game as take back the light. Not a
well,
thing because of that,
yeah.
everyone went under the assumption that
Oh, it's stolen.
Savathun had somehow stolen the light.
Mm-hmm. People were
And
harkening back to the old Red War, where it's like, oh shit, they
she's
captured
done
the.
something similar to Gaul without
Yeah,
taking away the light from us.
yeah, and then all of a
And
sudden,
then and then the revelation hits that no, it was given to her.
well, not only that, it was also the fact that back in the season of Arrivals, everyone thought, well, shit, it failed. And then when we see it, we realize it. Oh, it didn't fail. It actually worked perfectly. Just not right there. Because of this, the whole matter of fact of just, yeah, we know that plans don't work out well, and it's just kind of that's what leads us to the next season, or something happens that leads us to the next season. But I still love the fact where it's like, yeah, no, Marasov was right. Like, it worked. Just it worked way too well, and then the Traveler is like, might as well whoop, just bring you back alive. Why not?
What's wild to me is that this plan of Savathun's has been in motion, has been in planning for hundreds of thousands of years.
And you know what the
Like this goes all the way back to when she first found out about the Traveler.
yeah.
That's long before our Guardian's time, long before the Golden Age
long
of
before,
Earth.
like, I think we were what at that time we were still building the pyramids. If anything, not even. I don't even think we were considered like humans at that point in terms
Like,
of
to think
mankind.
about that, to think that this is the culmination of her plan and that it almost came to fruition is insane.
But here's the best part. Here's the best part about it. We inadvertently stopped her plan and then brought it back because we killed her, right? She
Hmm.
she was resurrected, but she had no idea what the fuck was going on. Because again, when you get resurrected by the light, you
Yeah,
lose.
that was like there's two twists in that scene. The first is that Savathun was given the light, that she died and she was given the light. The second is that we had just been manipulated into giving her memories back.
Yeah, and essentially reenacting that whole thing. And then I think the best part is the third plot twist where it's like, yeah, no, this is not like, this whole thing was being manipulated as well.
Yeah, that the hive were manipulated. That there was never any actual god wave. That the god wave was actually going to be the traveler. And
Yep.
it's just there was so many revelations in this story, and it was amazing and wild. It puts into perspective so many different things.
I think the way, and then it's just, because we
And
not only
then
have, because essentially what it was in the end, it's like the hive are being manipulated by the worm gods, and then we find out later on they're also being manipulated. They're being threatened. They're blackmailed at this point.
yeah, the worm god's being threatened by the raid boss Rolk,
by the first disciple,
who by
is a
the way
follower of
who by the way Rolk orchestrated the destruction of his own planet.
Yep. By guess whose manipulation? I just
It wasn't even manipulation. The man wanted to kill people on his planet already. He
that's
didn't.
right.
Rolk was a serial killer on his planet already.
I forgot about that.
The man is a maniac, and so that's why when when he met the witness, it just didn't matter. He went into everything. He was all into it.
He's like, I bet, cool, I'm down.
Rolk as a character is
overpowered.
Crazy. And to know that he basically just started paranoia on his planet and then eventually led to its destruction it's insanity. And it's the amount of lore we get from it, and to know that this man is the one who beat the Leviathan that was guarding the worm gods
with a kick,
straight up ripped out a rib from it, and it puts it on display in the pyramid.
It's just like, yeah, we just have this pedestal here. Oh, what's that from? Oh yeah, from an old foe. Guy was easy as fuck. Oh, hey, yeah, by any chance, what was it? Oh, it was the Leviathan on Fundament. Huh?
It's just his line of I will not drown, I rise.
And then he's just like,
God, fuck, dude.
But here's the best part. He's not even the strongest that we know of. Because of the fact that he is a disciple of the witness. But then
and to know that the only reason we beat him was because he was going easy on us because he's fucking arrogant as hell.
I mean, did you see his dance floor of his arena?
I mean, I think you probably should say something that he's stupidly strong when he goes up to you and kicks you and it kills you.
Yeah.
Man's kicking a guardian and killing him in one shot when guardians have taken down Ahamkaras and time gods and other things. Yep. He's genuinely the strongest opponent we've ever fought.
Just the biggest. Oh, you want to fight? Take my foot. And he's just dead. And that's that. And I think
Yeah.
the one thing is that they've definitely set this up for not only Lightfall, but for also the final shape. Because, and again, this is kind of going back to stuff that, we've talked about before in, going through the mission. But essentially, it's we inadvertently follow sword logic in defense for humanity. And it's like we are the light version of the Hive at this point. Because over time, ever since the beginning of, you know, of Destiny, it's always just fighting the bigger person. We always increase our light level every single time. And then it became power level after, Beyond Light came through. And so the fact of the matter is that inadvertently, we are expected to be to essentially go up against much more powerful people. And it's just so weird to think about it because that retrospect never came up to anybody. I mean, it likely, for the lore guys, like, yeah, of course. But I mean, like, canonically, only one person has brought it up. That was it's Virgil. I don't know why. I was thinking Vigil, but
Okay.
it's Virgil, and he's like bringing it up. It's like we gotta do this, and it's like we are doing this. We're doing this by accident. We're not trying to do this, but we are.
Yeah, basically.
And it's great because it's like we make memes of, oh yes, we fight these huge ass freaking like demons and like gods because we get guns from them. Like
I
we
mean, that
got
was literally, you may or may not remember this in the marketing for Destiny 2 when they were making trailers for Vanilla. You may remember the trailer where you have Zavala hyping up Guardians and then Cade trying to hype up Guardians.
Yep.
And Cade fails to hype them up. And then at the end, he's like,
get cool shit.
There'll be lots of loot. And then all of a sudden, the Guardians are going crazy.
Yep. And I think that's the biggest, like, the funniest thing about it is that we essentially are becoming the biggest force to be reckoned with. And we're like, and I still love just the fact of like, it's not even like we want to become gods. It's we just want to get cool shit. That's it. We're materialistic as fuck. But
yeah, I mean, there's stuff in the lore that kind of makes fun of that.
I mean, we literally have an entire dungeon that was dedicated to that aspect of it because of an exploit, which is great. I just love the fact of just that being a thing. It's like, oh yeah, and we follow the lore of Wilhelm VII, who did exactly that.
Yeah, well, oh my god, that storyline with Wilhelm was kind of crazy.
It's just so fucking insane. Like, god damn. I was like going through that and just like, ugh. But anyway, we're kind of getting like on the tangent of, oh yes, we are now gods from the review. But back to kind of like looking over like Witch Queen itself. The world, like the area itself is really nice. Because you do have these two different locations when it comes to it. You have the swamp area that's like not the most refined location. That's kind of where like Savathun's kind of lost control on the Throne World, because over there you just see all the fucking Scorn, like to the farthest reaches of the place. And then you go into like the castle area, and then it's all like this pure white light base like system, and you see barely any Scorn, if there is even one. Like it's just all it's all Lucent Hive, it's all light bearers, and like the difference between it is just so drastic. I love it because also it brings into the fact of like, yes, there is a fight going between them, but it's at the point where it's like they have a huge impact on it. And so overall, like looking at that, it's nice because compared to like all the other locations, like Earth, like like the EDZ, Cosmodrome, Nessus, Europa, well, especially Europa, like they're all just kind of like, yeah, they look different, but it's the fact of, oh, they still are the same location. Like it feels like it's the same location with just a difference in like the layout, so to speak. But the atmosphere changes from location, like in the throne world, from when you go from the swamps of the quagmire over to the castle where where you have that final fight. It's a completely different vibe that you get from it, and I think that's friggin' amazing, especially when it comes to it, being like the throne world itself. And so another thing that is like really nice is that we also get a little bit of Mars back, because we essentially go from what I think four different places throughout the campaign. We go to Mars, like the Enclave and the Mars. We then go to Europa near the pyramids. Then we go to the Throne World, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
and then we kind of go back to the last city, back into Zavala's office. So, I mean, granted, that last part is just for a cutscene, but it's still the fact that you travel to like back to somewhere for it. It's not like, oh yeah, it's just here's a cutscene. It's like you have to physically go there,
Yeah.
which I like a lot. I think it's
I
always
think
nice. Mhm.
the cutscene. I think this DLC has some of the best voice acting out of all the DLCs
Yes.
because the Zavala's moment in the office was extremely powerful. Seeing him just
Pissed.
kind of like having his world torn down about the traveler, and then Ikor's speech
Not only that.
and Savathun in general, like especially like the cutscene where everything is revealed about how she got the light,
Oh
like
yeah.
that. The voice acting on top of the animation, like the animation was and CGI in that was absolutely on fucking point.
I think the best thing about it, in my opinion, was that little outburst from the ghost. I think that is the that is one of the main things that kind of like showed that, oh yeah, they went beyond it for all their characters, because we never hear them, like we never hear our ghosts get angry. We never hear any like huge emotion other than sadness or regret. And you have Savathun being like, oh yeah, like, whoa, like we should be questioning your shit, and he's just like, alright bitch, I don't need to hear this from you, dude. You fucking, like, I had to fucking kill like my relatives of mine, god damn it, I do not need to hear this right now. And I think it was just the fact of like, you had that range, it shows that like they have emotion outside of just like sadness and regret, and it's like just the whole aspect of it, like the final plans, like the ritual, the final boss itself was really friggin' nice and really cool. And I think with the locations themselves, each area does have its like obviously outside of like the differences between those, there's also like unique situations in each and every single like aspect of it, like compared to what you see in Europa, compared to what you see in Nessus, back in Forsaken, it's still like that unique style of there is more pronounced within these areas. Like, yeah, you do get like some of the lost sectors look kind of generic, just like the area, but there's some that are just, oh yeah, we're just gonna go into this little neck of the woods, and then, oh hey, here's a completely different like style and atmosphere. And I think that's great because it's like, yay, you want to have that world to be different, not just like one humongous like thing. It's not just like, oh yeah, this just pervade throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
But one thing that, I will say is my only gripe I don't like the public event because of the fact that there is just an escort mission.
Well, I'm fine with it being an escort mission because it's not your typical escort mission where your fucking thing can get destroyed.
That's true.
My only problem with the escort mission is the fact that they decided to use it in the raid, and I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with it if it was just 2 or 3 sections, but it's like a full 5 to 6 sections in which you have to do it, and it's really slow in the raid. And I'm
Oh,
just like, Bungie, why?
it's
I get it. You wanted to do a cool escort thing, and it's cool the first time you do it, but it's just
it's not fun
after
after that.
that, because it takes so long to go through. It's just, I think it's the only bad part of the raid, to be honest. Everything else in the raid is amazing,
That yes, agreed.
but the one bad part is the beginning. And for some reason, Bungie has this problem where they create beginnings of raids that are just annoying. The beginning of Crown of Sorrow is
Annoying.
annoying.
I honestly, personally, I would say Deep Stone Crypt. I would say that's kind of annoying if you don't know where you're going. Outside of that, it's just like a mild inconvenience if you're slow, but
I would say Deep Stone's beginning is cool the first time, but then after you've gone through it like 4 times, it's like,
yeah, someone skip it, go right
man,
ahead.
there's really just no reason to this beginning section. Because my biggest problem with it is that it wants me to get to the raid, but then it doesn't want to give me any
Checkpoints.
powerful or like, well, I mean checkpoints, yeah. But my problem is like, what's the point of having an encounter if I don't get rewards from it?
I mean, it's just like what we had in
Because
the
you know what? At least Crown gave me a fucking reward for the beginning part.
yeah. Vault of Glass too. Vault of Glass had that because they wanted to revamp it, but it's still the fact of like you respawn, but it's still like a stupidly long thing that
Vault in
doesn't.
general is long. It's like people are like,
Well,
"Oh, Vault's
that's
not long," and I'm just like, "But oracles take forever."
that's
Uh, Templar, no matter what, is kind of a set time because like you can only DPS so much. Uh, the defending the things before oracles takes a long time. Opening the beginning gate takes a long time.
yep.
Opening like doing the 2 portals before Atheon takes a long time. And then Atheon in general, like getting to his damage phase, takes maybe a little too long. Like the Vault of Glass is time extension the raid.
Pretty much. Pretty fucking much.
And I've never understood why people love that raid so much. I get it, it was the first raid in Destiny, and for a first experience, that's definitely a really good experience first time. But after that, if you're just trying to get it done, it feels like doing the part after, like doing the entrance feels like it takes forever, even though it doesn't actually. And then every part after that, up until Atheon, just feels like it takes a long time. Like I was doing, like, but when we did Vault before Witch Queen came out, it felt like doing defending the spires and doing the oracles were just taking way longer than I remembered.
Yep. One thing that I do have to say though, like the only reason why I like Vogue was because of the fact that it was a Vex raid, and then that changed after we had Garden of Salvation. Like I think that one's a much better one, even though it's like stupidly complicated compared to what like everyone else like would say. Personally, for me, I think it's just like people are just not really paying attention because within the I'm dying. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Because like within Garden of Salvation, essentially it's like everyone has a role. Everyone has to do something at least once. And like if you're not paying attention, you fuck everyone over. And I think that's the one thing about it, and I think that's something that needs to be more like prevalent within raids. Because within Vault of Glass, you can literally have like what? I think if I remember correctly, like you only need like 2 or 3 people to do The first part, back when the defense, you only need 3 at most. You may even need only 2. Uh, and so it's like a lot of it is just very, very very simple mechanics compared to what it could be. And I think that's why, like, now officially, Vow of the Disciple is my favorite raid from Destiny altogether, because it's not only brings in the complexities of like different mechanics, but it's super engaging to the point where you need to have everybody actually paying attention, or you're gonna wipe. And that's like, it's great because you have that system. Although granted, it is a bit of a pain in the ass for a couple of them. Because if you got somebody who isn't really keeping an eye on things, yeah, they're dead. Everybody dies. I think
Yeah.
like, I know that, like, as of right now, this grade is like 3 manable. Like, that's like whatever. That's like kind of expected at this point. It's still just the fact of, yes, they are doing exactly what everyone like wanted to do within it. Like, if you're not 3 man it, everyone still has a role. If you're 3 man it just becomes a little bit more complicated, but it still is manageable. I think my only problem personally is the last part. And I only say that because the darkness stuff is a fucking pain in the ass. I hate
What the pervasive darkness?
yes. The
Wait,
pervasive
what?
darkness.
How?
It's I don't know. It's just like one of those things where it's like
If you avoid his attacks, the stacks go down.
I know. It's just I don't like it. Like, the pervasive darkness stuff is just like, it's great, and then you know like, it's
I
not.
don't agree. I disagree heavily.
Mm. I think the one thing is that when it comes to the raid itself, do we like know exactly what's goes on, like, within the actual system, not the system itself. I don't know why I'm saying the system. But what goes on within the actual I can't even think of the name. God damn. Uh Within, like, why we have the relic, the taken eye and other stuff like that. Like the whole eye, like the eye of Riven, the Aegis shield, and the nut.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, what's the reason for it? Like, why do we have those there? Because I just it
I would imagine because he's collected them, probably.
uh, makes sense.
The man is seemingly a collector. I don't know if there's a lore reason. There probably is, but it could also just be one of those things where it's just game mechanics. You gotta remember, sometimes things can only really be explained by game mechanics. The doors under Callie is literally just game mechanics.
That's true. That's true.
Because the reality is, what she's doing, an ontological weapon, would be impossible to escape.
That is very true. That is stupidly true. I still think the one thing is that when it comes to that, I'm just kind of, personally, for me, I just kind of hope that it's like decent enough where it's just like, okay, cool, awesome, this is great. But I still think, overall, it's still a very good thing to go for.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the fact of the matter is that it brings in those different like aspects of it. I think that's the one thing that I like the most out of it, because of just how like drastic it can be changed and how interesting the situation can be. Especially when you bring in like mechanics from old raids. So the fact that they did that was very nice. I personally liked it. Uh, but with how everything is set up for it, I wouldn't be surprised if people were like kind of like confused at it too. Just like, why the fuck is this here? I don't understand this.
Yep.
But overall, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
All right. But I think so. Moving away from that, overall, great fucking raid. I think it's one of the best ones that they have made. Beats out Forsaken, honestly, because compared to The Last Wish, this isn't just 100% always just like this, and this. It is just it is what it is, and that's just kind of how it is. And it's great. I like that personally. And so, that whole aspect of it is nice. So, with that being said, the one thing that I find kind of dumb and weird is just the fact of how, like, people like the way that you can get the symbols. I still found it funny because funny enough, I actually did a run where the way that they actually were describing the symbols was completely different from like the actual like names themselves. So it's like worship was not even called worship. They called it something completely different. I don't remember what it was because it was just so random. The like the darkness was just black. It makes sense, but it's just like, okay, well, black, it works. But but it's weird to think that because of that, without that like that wall of like that room of icons, like symbols, we would have had so many confusing callouts for a good month.
Yeah.
It would have been
Yeah,
insane.
it would have been really bad.
At least it's not like, oh, the first one's to this one, and this one's to that one, and this is all to that, and all that shit. Which is nice,
Yeah.
But I think the one thing that I kind of wished it was like just one more encounter. Personally, I wanted it to be one more encounter, but it is.
Why?
I don't know. I just feel like just having like either like having the beginning encounter be like included into it, or like possibly because I feel like the setup of just having it be like essentially like progression, or like mechanic boss encounter, like mechanics and then boss encounter. I don't know, I feel like that's just kind of at this point like a staple, because that's how it was in Deepstone, because you had the security protocol, Atrax, Chaos, like the descent, and then Tanix. You have, well, I mean, we can't really go over Last Wish on this point. um the only ones that had the difference within that was obviously Last Wish, was just like every single one was a boss, with the exception of the vault.
Did your
And
stream die?
yeah, my stream did die, so I had to switch over to what's it called, to Shadow Play.
Hmm.
Yep. I mean, it's a clutch thing. It works out, but it's still just the fact of I gotta deal with this. So
Mm,
it sucks, but that's just kind of how the reality of it is. But I mean, hey, at least I have a nice background. Granted, if you're watching this on YouTube, it already has like a thumbnail and all that shit, so you're not gonna be missing much. But it's like if you're watching this live, you get a nice ass background. This is like literally the background that I have. But anyway, um, moving away from the area, like the location, the raid, and the story. Let's talk about the other shit that they brought in, because they brought in a ton. Well, not a ton, but they brought in like major changes, and I think those are great. With one obvious exception, technically two, but one obvious one. Weapon crafting is back, which I'm very happy about. Now, I mean, granted, initially it was still the fact of like it was counterproductive because when they said, "Oh yeah, this is going to remove the hoarding of like in vault space," and then because of the limits that they put in, we have again another problem. Luckily, they are removing those altogether next season, and they're boosting up the cap in on Tuesday, which is great. I still like I think that's like the best thing about that is the fact that like, weapon crafting is back into this. It's going to be something that's more like prevalent. It's going to make it a lot easier to manage like the vault space. Now, I'm hoping that the more weapons that we get, like obviously excluding the seasonal stuff, I'm thinking like maybe having more of the world weapons, the world based weapons. Not a lot of them, but like some of them being brought in. That would be kind of nice. And hopefully, with how everything is, I'm hopefully hoping that it becomes more of a grind for the materials, and you can just kind of craft every single weapon. I think the only ones that I would say should not be crafted would be like adept version of things. And personally, because the reason why I'm saying this is because I think the adept versions of weapons.
They could just make it so the adepts require more.
That's true.
So
But I
that like
think
adepts require like 10 or 15 or however many they want to do it.
yeah,
Because you could easily do that.
that's valid.
I don't know. I think my problem with adepts is that the only real reason to get an adept is if you want the masterwork bonus and the what's it called?
Like the adept mods.
Yeah, the adept mods. But even then, there's only really two adept mobs that are good, and that's adept big ones
Hmm.
and impact for swords.
Oh, I completely forgot that adept impact was one.
Yeah.
Huh. I don't even remember what the other ones are because I only remember the adept big ones and the adept swords. That was it. I didn't know like what other ones there are.
I mean, there's one for everything. There was the accuracy, blast radius, charge time, counterbalance, draw time, handling. There's Icarus grip, impact, mag, projectile speed, range, reload stability, and targeting.
Oh, that's true. That's valid. I think I don't know. It's just it kind of sucks because like adepts are great, but it's like you have to fucking just go so far out of your way to get them.
Not really.
I mean, it's not. It's not. It's what? How can I elaborate this more? Like all the high, like the adept stuff, is based primarily around the system of. Why can't I think of the name? I can't. It's not coming to me. Uh, it's the high like the high end content. And it's not like, oh yeah, you just do raids. It's like you got to do the master version of raids, or you got to do like the grandmaster nightfalls, or suffer in PvP. But even then, you only get the ones in those pools, which is like it's not too bad. Like I don't like have that much of an issue. But the one thing that I would have the issue with is them essentially like and this is particularly within the grandmaster location is specifically is the fact of they cycle out the weapons, because as much as I want to get the duty bound adept, like I kind of also want to have that be the same drop. Now granted, that being said, I'm not saying like, oh, just add them into the loot pool. Like, no, fuck that, you already have a pain in the ass of just trying to get one of them. Why are you going to add more to it? But I'm thinking more of the fact of it's just the loot pool is like there's two different forms of the loot pool, with like you can get, you know, one weapon from one loot pool and another weapon from the other loot pool. And I'm like,
I mean, what they could just do is something that they did in Destiny 1, which was tie it to specific strikes. So you could just play the strike playlist, and if you play that specific strike in the playlist, you have a chance of getting it.
I mean, they used to do that for for
No,
D2.
no, no, no. That was Nightfall.
Oh yeah, you're right. It was the Nightfall. It was the Nightfall. I forgot about that. I don't know why. I was thinking like, oh yeah, they have been strike now.
No.
No, unfortunately, they did not. But I think the one, but yeah, like if and you know have, and if that's the particular Nightfall, then boom.
So at the moment, there's 3 ways to get it in the game. Technically 4, because Master Grasp is dropping it for some reason. But one, you can go the Lighthouse from Trials, you can get it from Grandmaster Nightfalls, and then Master Vault. And I'm assuming we'll have another one with Master Vow of
Right.
Disciple.
Yep. Master Vow.
And then Master of whatever raid comes after that in 2 seasons.
Yep. I'm just hoping that they don't remove any of the raids. Like personally speaking, I feel like if they start removing the raids, people are going to have a huge problem with it. Because even though the Leviathan ones were kind of meh,
Well, raids are going to get removed because, like, I imagine Last Wish is probably going to get removed at some point.
it's possible that they may get removed next year with Lightfall.
That's also possible that, like, they may just remove planets instead. I don't know. I don't know what their plan is for content vaulting. And
Personally, for
that's kind of
me,
like what has me confused is because it's content vaulting at this point. I don't know what's going to stay. I don't know what's going to get removed.
they
And I
they
know it's
very
older content, but I'm like, what's next? Is it Nessus? Is it Earth? What is next?
personally the way that I'm looking at this is that it's not going to affect any of the new light um, planets at all. So I'm thinking Ness is going to stay around. Earth is obviously going to stay around. Cosmodrome's going to be there,
You realize
but
everything is New Light, right? All the planets are New Light.
oh, are they? Oh shit. Okay.
Yes.
Like
Patrol zones are New Light.
oh
You can visit the Throne World as a New Light.
oh didn't know that. Well, I guess that's what happens when you kept up with the game and didn't hop in after year 3.
Yeah.
It's like new light. What's that shit?
That's been a thing since New Light was added, Toxic.
No, no. I was saying that as a joke because of the
I
fact of
guess.
like, oh, because we've like been there since day one. We never had to go through the new light campaign or like the new light story.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I've been following the New Light thing, like looking at New Light forever because I'm always curious as to what the new player experience is. It's still not great, but at least it's better than it used to be.
That is very true. I mean, what was like what is the what's it called? Beforehand it was just like, "Oh yeah, have fun doing bounties." Or something. Because I remember doing it on my friend's account because I wanted to get him up so I can like, I could play Destiny 2 with him, but cuz he's like busy and shit, he's not able to do that. And so I remember
Mhm.
going through it and going through like the whole like story of it. And I was just like, God damn, this is fucking boring as shit. How the fuck do people actually like stick with this?
The New Light one?
Yeah.
I think the New Light one is fine. I think what they do for the New Light mission is fine.
I mean,
Because I went through it and I was like, yeah, this is kind of a cool little experience for New
granted,
Light.
this is also coming from somebody who, who's just been going
I
through it.
think my problem with the New Light campaign
Oh, you're gonna
is
make me on soon. shit.
I think my problem with the New Light campaign is that Shah Han, right, is supposed to be the kind of like mentor character.
Yeah.
But it's hard for I feel like it's hard for even New Lights to look at this guy as a mentor character when he dies to a boss that you end up killing easily.
Wait, what boss?
Navota.
R-
He gets his ass kicked by Navota. Did you forget this?
I'll admit.
We literally go to save his ass because he decided to be a one-man army. He goes out there, fights her, dies, and then we find him. If we find his ghost still there, waiting to res him, we fight off Navota for a little bit. I don't think we fight off Navota. Something happened. I can't remember quite what. But Navota fucks off, and then after that, we do the Navota strike, in which we kind of just beat Navota's ass.
Ooh, I will admit, completely forgot about that part. Ah, God, that says a lot. That says a lot about how little I go.
Well, it stuck with me because I played that part, and I was just like, man, Navoda is yeah, this guy's kind of a
shit.
how is this guy meant to be a fucking bigger guy? Like in the lore, I love the lore that happens with Shahan because there's some good lore with him.
Yeah.
But in game Shahan for the story, for the New Light story, I'm just like, God damn.
Oh, dude. Speaking of Shahan, I still remember there was a point on Twitter on Destiny Twitter that people were like flipping shit over the fact that they made a shitty looking bridge, and they were like, "Oh yeah, this is for Shahan made this," and it was to go to the Lost Sector. I forget which one it was, but it's the one with the
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. So
yeah.
a lot of people got mad at that, and I'm just like, I
Just
don't
like
see the reason. It's like it's not a problem. They added it because like the game does a really bad job at explaining jumps.
and not only that, it's also the fact of like it. The whole point of it is for Shahan to essentially help out New Lights. You think he's just gonna be like, oh yeah, go over there. Yeah, good fucking luck getting up. Like, no, this isn't Elden Ring. This isn't a Souls game where you gotta learn on your own. They're gonna help. That's just kind of how it is. I mean, how we literally had back during the 30th anniversary stuff, there was literally a whole community event that was essentially Operation Blueberry, where like you just go in and like you go in at a lower light, and then you just like match up with new lights, and then you just bring yourself up to level and carry them through. And, like, that was such a big thing that Bungie was like, yeah, well, here you go. Here's an emblem for it, for just like participating part of it. It's like, we literally are there to help people out. Anyone who freaking like flips shit over it is a dickhead and like the fuck. Like, don't whine about stuff that helps other people. You know? Oh, you had a tough time. Well, guess fucking what? Literally, the whole basis of it is that you struggle so that and you struggle then succeed. So when you have when the next generation comes around, they don't have to struggle like you. That is literally how how Destiny kind of like shows it off too, because it's like we made, granted we had some close calls, but we essentially made sure that the last city is safe. And the we made sure that, the solar system was safe from Oryx for the next generation to come up. We made sure that, all like Aramis was taken down, so they don't come back after the Traveler, so that so there wouldn't be any issues. It's just the fact of when people bitch and moan about just helping it for other people, I just will never understand it. That's like me. That's like somebody saying, "Oh, they need to run.
There
Fuck
was a
them, use
lot
the
of
car."
malding. There was a lot of malding about the ramp, and it was ridiculous.
People are fucking stupid.
Because it's like the game doesn't do a good job of explaining the jump. And here's the thing, right? None of the jumps are bad. The Warlock jump's not bad. The Titan jump's not bad. The Hunter jump's not bad. The reality is that like each jump can be utilized perfectly. You just have to know how to do it. The
Oh,
Hunter jump is basically just a double jump, but there's some things you can do with it that aren't really explained that regarding momentum.
mm-hmm.
And the same goes for Titan Jump, where like the momentum of it is not explained. It's like you're not explained exactly how each jump works or
Yeah.
how you can do different things with them. And I feel like the Warlock is the worst contender because the Warlock works based off of momentum, but
It
no one
is
ever really quite understands this and then complains about it. The reality is, none of the jumps are bad. It's just
the application.
when you play only one character and you go over to another one and you've not learned the jump on that one, it's gonna suck. Especially if you're learning the jump for the first time and you're new to the game and you're going to play like Titan or Warlock and you're like, what? How does the jump work? Why is catapult only sending me so far? Why is burst glide like kind of weird? Why is strafe weird? Why is like all of these things weird? There's a lot of problems with the way jumps are explained in the game.
100%. Yeah.
And it's like I've played Warlock for so long. I've never had the problems that other people have with the jump because I see people complain about the jump all the fucking time and I'm like, well, maybe learn the jump. And they're like, well, I've learned the jump. No, you haven't.
If
If
you're
you are having
bitching,
as many problems with the jump, you have not learned the jump. I understand not liking the jump. I understand having problems with it. But to go ahead and consistently fuck it up and claim you've learned it, you haven't.
yeah, it's just people. But I think the one thing is that people need to really like realize that in reality, shit's always gonna be built. You know, I still love the fact though, because I just remembered this. People were like, "Oh, this so like this is just like for accessibility. It's not too difficult." It's like, bro, that's the whole fucking point of bringing new lights in. We don't just toss them into the fucking deep end, you jackass. There's a reason why they start off at 1350 and not 1500. They still gotta do the grind, but we just make it easier for them in the beginning, and then once they get used to it, they'll then get to the points where you are. It's just really it's just stupid because it's like. But I think like the one thing is outside of that, dude, there's still a lot of stuff that people like in regards to the accessibility type stuff. Like there is a Twitter from one content creator who is considered legally blind, and he had a whole thread post about the bow. What's the bow called? The one with the homing arrows. I can't think
Oh,
of.
Tiku's?
Yeah, Tiku's. And he went through the whole thing. It's just like, yeah, it's like, it's hard, it's a difficult thing to master, but it's has a really like, it has a nice like skill floor because it's like, oh, you can essentially just like, it's a homing one, so it's not like you need to focus that much on damage. But if damage, like, if you have to do damage, you can master it like, over time. And so it's just like the stuff like that. It's just like, yeah, that's perfect. This guy gets it. And it's nice because that's kind of what a lot of the stuff within games are, is based around like, accessibility, because at this point they
I
already
think
kind
there's this weird gatekeeping mentality with some people and I don't understand it.
people are just bitchy that, oh, someone can do
It
it.
reminds me of the Souls players who get mad whenever someone doesn't play the game the way they played it.
Yeah.
Like Asmongold, he killed the very first boss in the game, the Tree Sentinel, and then got a and then he got a weapon from it. And people were claiming that the weapon carried him, even though it's nowhere near being the best weapon in the game. And
Jesus.
Asmongold literally made a point of this by pulling up videos of other people, and lo and behold, none of those videos where people were speed killing bosses were they using his weapon.
Yeah, like if when it comes to stupid shit like that, I'm just like, yeah, like, and I will never understand. I will never understand. So, for a bit of context, back when when the Vow Disciple raid dropped, right?
Mm-hmm.
They had like we obviously suffered from it too. There was the curse of the Anteater. It was so prevalent that literally people were memeing on it on Twitter, where it's like, ah, yes, I got past the Anteater encounter. Because the one thing is that during that escort mission, for some reason, if somebody died enough times, I forget if it was like if the host died, like if the main host dies, or if there was enough, if, like too many orbs on the ground, or something had like was causing an anteater, and it would always kick people out. And the thing was that you always had to do the first part all throughout again. There was no checkpoints in that. And so that people are like going through that, and then obviously Bungie was like, okay, yeah, we're trying to figure out like what's going on. Like, I'm so sorry about this. And then obviously they announced like, okay, we're gonna extend this out to 48 hours. And the amount of people who flipped shit over that was immense. I will still never understand. Like, I understand the whole thing of like, oh, getting the day one thing done, but it's still just the
I
fact of
think I think people care too much about the day one. I think it needs to be said that people care way too much about the day one.
yeah.
Because there are people who just go fucking wild whenever Bungie does stuff like that. There are people that just go fucking insane about it, and they just it's I don't understand what it is about endgame content that brings out the worst in people.
I mean, to be fair, I was like that back in Shadowkeep when they did that whole like 3 hour extension thing. But that was just because of the
Mm-hmm.
fact of like, so it was essentially like so many people gave up like within that. Like again, like that is the what that has the second least amount of clears out
I think
of
I need to say something about the whole clear thing. I cannot agree with the clear thing because I think a lot of people look at the clears and they think, "Oh, that was the hardest raid," or this or that, and I'm like, well, not necessarily because
yeah.
Deep Stone Crypt destroyed more teams than most other raids.
Oh,
Yeah,
100%,
there
yeah.
was a lot of clears in it,
But
but it
comparatively to the
destroyed
attempts,
85% of teams that went into it,
yeah.
which was more than most raids before it.
I think what the only other exception was just Last
And
Wish.
I think people see the clears and they think, "Oh man, this raid was easy." And I'm like,
Nah,
I mean, in a way, I can kind of agree, but I also have to just disagree completely because the raid locked out more teams than anyone before it. Because Beyond Light brought in a lot of new players.
Mm-hmm. Not only that, there's a lot more time for you to get up to that recommended level for the contest, and so because
Yeah,
of that, more teams have participated. That's why there's more clears, there's more attempts. But
and I
if
hated the people who were like complaining about how it was so accessible because I'm like, how is it
I
accessible
honestly
if
find
it
that
has
somewhat
a
funny.
contest mode? If there's a contest mode in which there's only so much that you can reach up to, then how is it accessible? At that point, it's not accessible because only the people who can like deal with contest mode are going to be able to beat it. It's accessible in the idea that more people can play it because they'll be closer to level to it, but I don't know. I can't understand the accessibility thing when like there's no point in like complaining when like no matter what everyone's going to be stuck to a certain level. You're going to be underpowered. You're not going to be at full power. No one who, even if someone gets to that power like 1530 for Val, doesn't mean they're going to beat it. Like if they had stopped it on day 1 without going into day 2, only 980 something teams would have beaten it.
Not even. If I remember correctly, people were saying that it was
It was 980 something. It was confirmed.
It was 987?
It was 980 something.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what the something was. It was 980 something.
So,
but if you think about it like that, it's just when you look at that, it really tells you the raids aren't accessible on day 1 because of contest mode.
Mm-hmm. Even on day 2,
like just because you can get up to a certain level does not mean something is accessible, and I hate that fucking concept. Because back in like other raids, the reason why, and I feel like this isn't said enough, and I hate that people don't say it enough. Last Wish was only difficult on day 1 because everyone was 60 to 80 under.
Mm-hmm.
Last Wish, if everyone had been on contest mode and only 20 under,
that would have been
hundreds of more teams would have beaten it.
That was actually when they first started doing the whole giving incentive for day 1s.
Yeah. But it's just like I see people say, "Oh, Last Wish is the standard," and I'm like, no. Last Wish should not be the standard because it did something that no raids had ever done and put the power cap way too fucking high for considering how bad the power leveling system was back then.
Oh god,
it took me way too long to get to power cap back then.
If I remember correctly, it took me
there were people who at the end of Last Wish, because of not at the end of Last Wish, but at the end of Forsaken's life before Black Armory came out, had still not hit 600 because of how bad the power leveling system was back then.
Yep, there was only like 2 or 3 sources, and then it's like, oh, you gotta do it. You have to do it again. And then there's prime engrams. And the best part is, the only reason why those teams, like the top 10 teams, were able to finish it within that time that they did, was because they used the exploit.
It was because they used the prime engram exploit to be able to have enough power. The reality is that, like, Last Wish having only 2 people beat it is not a good thing, and I don't know why people think it is. Because the only reason people didn't beat it is because of how bad the power leveling system was and how high the level was to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You take that away and you put it at like 50. If it had been like if the max level had been 550 and everyone had reached like 530, I guarantee you
that would have been easy.
I guarantee you around as many teams that beat Garden would have beaten it. Maybe even more.
I would say more. Personally, I would say more.
Because people give The Last Wish way too much credit, dude.
The one thing that I would say is that if they did go through contest, more people would have beat it than Garden. Because the one thing was, the thing that Garden had that was the difficult part was not the contest, but it was the encounters themselves. And that's because it was unintended side, like it was bugs that essentially was causing a lot of the issues on that one.
Yeah.
And that part, like literally it's like regardless, you could have been like max light. They wouldn't have no contest on. I would not be surprised if a lot of teams were not able to do it because of how buggy it was. I remember being on on World First Pace on my day 1 run because of how stuck the front of the pack was on day 1. And we were able to get through everything else fairly quickly. Like, I think it took us, maybe 4 or 5 hours to get through what is it, 4, right? So there's that one. Yeah, like the first, like, all, like, the beginning encounters up until boss. Like, it took us that long. It wasn't that bad. When we got to the boss part, that took us the majority of the time. Was because of how fucking buggy that was. Like, if contest wasn't on there, yeah, maybe we would have finished it much earlier. But again, it's still, like, I would have still had complaints because of how buggy it was.
Yeah. I think a lot of people seemingly just kind of forget about what contests can do, because contests really Atrax screwed people over on contest mode. A lot of people. Atrax was the run stopper.
Oh yeah, that was almost our run stopper. But after we got through that, it took us only 4 hours after that to finish it.
Something like that.
Yeah, we were stuck on that for like what, 9 hours? No, not 9 hours. 6 hours. We were stuck on Atrax for 6 hours. And then we literally just, like, the last part was just like an easy run, no problem. And so the fact of the matter is like, that whole system that was set up there could have been fine. It had no issue, but that was just the whole thing. Now, moving away from Destiny, I kind of want to do a focus on Bungie, because if you are a content creator of Destiny content, you may have some issues with your stuff. And the reason why I'm saying that is because because the affiliate partner for Bungie, CSC, just said fuck everybody who makes Destiny content.
It's not Bungie's partner.
Well, it's someone who's affiliated with the content creation stuff.
It's not anyone at Bungie or Bungie's partners. They've already confirmed that.
Oh, they have? Okay. That's
according to the tweet from Bungie. We're aware of a series of copyright takedowns on YouTube, and we're actively investigating. This includes content on our own Bungie channels. These actions are not being taken at the request of Bungie or our partners. Please stand by for future updates. So whatever's happening is outside of Bungie's control.
It's outside of anything of theirs. It's just, it was like, the fact of the matter is, like, them doing that stuff is just, like, insane. Ooh. But it's just like, holy crap. Yeah, because it looks like that it's and now people, because of the fact that Bungie has kind of set this, people are moving over towards YouTube itself, because it looks like that people are once again exploiting YouTube's copyright system. Because gotta love the copyright takedown shit for that, because they needed to make just a good old, like, quick patch, like a quick band-aid to avoid lawsuits, and then they kind of fuck everyone else over. Which
I think I want to know what's exactly happening, because it's not just something's happening that I'm confused about. It has to be some kind of weird, like, third party or something, because not all the takedowns are by CSC. Some of them are by Activision, or under the name of Activision Blizzard.
Yeah,
so someone or something is fucking around, and it's messing with a lot of things. And I don't think it's the algorithm. It has to. I don't know if it's a bot. I don't know what's going on. But something's happening, and Bungie is kind of like taking shit for it, even though it's like not their fault.
Yeah. So I still love the fact that essentially what Bungie has is, and I think honestly this is something that should be adopted by every gaming company, or in regards to this, their 80-20%, their 80-20 rule. And so, and again, this is just based off of what Bungie does. Whether or not it affects other games, that again, that's up to the game company itself. But essentially, what it is that players can create videos using Destiny gameplay, which may be uploaded to to video services like YouTube, Twitch, etc. What they have is that they will not request takedowns if at least a fifth of the content is being created by the player itself. And so that's essentially, it's a really good rule for that, because it's not like, oh yeah, I'm just taking it and then putting it on there, And so that's kind of how like a lot of people have been kind of like going through this, and they're very, very open about just like, to show off like, fan created content. I mean, hell, every single TWAB, they literally what's it called? Incentivize people to do that with movie of the week, art of the week. And so the fact of this just coming out of left field just seems so fucking weird.
Because it could, and I think it's just, I don't know. Some people were trying to blame Sony for it. It's very clearly not Sony's fault, because the Sony deal is still not even done. So Sony wouldn't have any control over it.
Yeah. But it just sucks too, because it's just like every single time there is that situation for it, it's just like, oh, why do you do this? But hopefully they get everything taken care of and there isn't any issues for that, because I know that there's some channels that actually went down because of this.
Yeah, and then Cross is unable to post for 2 weeks because of it now.
Yep. Which just fucking sucks. And I think the one thing is that the one thing that I hate the most is that I really hope that this is not what happens. We don't get another Nintendo situation. And by Nintendo, I mean the one where it was like a third party that was taking down videos.
Wasn't it Nintendo?
People were looking into it. I'm not sure. I haven't seen any recent updates for that. But if they did update it to say yes, those are from Nintendo, officially from Nintendo, then that just fucking sucks. But let me see here. Because the one thing is that, let me see here. It's like, I'm trying to remember exactly what the channel was, but they essentially just said, fuck that. Yeah, so let me see here. Because I'm trying to look into this, because I'm actually would be surprised, because the way that it was set up was not saying, oh yeah, this is from Nintendo LLC or Nintendo of America type deal. That's why people were like, oh, what's going on here. I'm not sure if there was any updates to that.
No idea.
Yeah. Oh man.
It's just a giant mess that unfortunately Bungie doesn't really have control over. They're trying to figure shit out seemingly, because they're having a meeting tomorrow about it.
Yeah. I'm just hoping that they get that taken care of. I really do. Because I don't want to have it where it's shit like that happens. Because there's a reason why Bungie is well known within the space of gaming. Not only because of, essentially making IPs that have placed, companies on the map in terms of the gaming space, but also just the fact of they're one of the few companies that give more of a shit about like the people that work with them, as well as like people that like their players and their community base. And so it's like that's kind of where where I'm hoping that they're able to get this taken care of, everything gets addressed, and everyone gets their shit back. I really hope they do. And speaking of people giving a shit, I want to talk about Gran Turismo 7. Because that's the complete opposite. Oh god. So to give some more insight on Gran Turismo 7, Gran Turismo 7 is a simulation racing game that is essentially considered a mainstay or like a huge flagship game for Sony and their PlayStation series. So previously, Gran Turismo was created like GT6, which was part of the main line of it. Like they had GT Sport, but again, that was not considered a main line. That was kind of considered the one-off. Was released back during the PS3 era. Now, recently they did release the Gran Turismo 7 both on PlayStation 4 as well as PlayStation 5, and a lot of and you can upgrade it once you get a PlayStation 5 for free. So the more interesting part is that, especially when it comes to racing games themselves, there is essentially the whole basis of it is that it is a very good, like it's good because you can play online as well as offline. However, Gran Turismo 7 on the other hand is an online only game, meaning that you have to be connected to Gran Turismo 7 servers to even play the single player campaign, which is freaking stupid. Now, people are kind of going over and saying like, oh, it's like this is to avoid cheating, but it's it's still just the fact of like it is very, very terrible for that.
I hate the argument that it's to avoid cheating.
It's not. It's not. Like people are saying that. It's like no, that's bullshit.
Online only has never stopped games from like cheats. Where does this argument come from? Destiny is online only. Cheats.
Yep.
Halo, multiplayer. Halo Infinite's multiplayer is completely separate from its like campaign, and it's online.
But here's the best part. Literally, the only way you can deter hackers from playing your game is to literally make a piece of shit Battlefield that literally no one wants to play.
Yeah, it's like literally, I don't know where this argument come from that like they're stopping hackers. No, they're not. They are not stopping hackers. Where is this argument coming from? I don't understand it. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it started. It makes absolutely no sense.
It really doesn't. But it's still just the fact of like, oh yeah. But honestly, personally for me, it's just that's not even like the tip of the iceberg at that point. It's also the fact of like the pricing within that game is fucking horrific compared to what we've seen before. So, to give some more context for it, Gran Turismo 7, like you are able to purchase vehicles, like just like in Forza, and all the other types like Drive Club, the Crew, etc., etc. Now, you normally do that by winning races or just playing the game. However, in Gran Turismo 7, for some fucking reason, the payouts for the races are so friggin' bad that people have said to buy like a McLaren F1 within the game, which is, by the way, 13 million credits. You have to be you have to be using the most efficient method and play it for at least 40 hours.
to get that amount. Just to buy one car. And so people are just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is fucking bullshit. And they made this grind so much worse because within their new update, there are some races that would give like a significant amount. They've reduced those amounts. Now, granted, some did get increased, but not many. Not only that, because of their most recent update, they have had to take down servers down for 30 hours. So that means that for 30 hours, no one was able to play Gran Turismo 7. Which is fucking just sad, dude. Like, there is literally, like, the fact of the matter, because of the whole online, like, the online only type bullshit that they have set up, it's unplayable in offline mode. Like, it is so bad, and it's just so terrible just to see that, because, you know, I can compare this over to Forza Horizon, you know, the Forza series. Oh shit, servers are offline. Guess what that affects? You being able to download community liveries, being able to sell your vehicle on the auction, being able to, you know, play with friends. Do you know what it doesn't stop you from doing? Racing, playing the game, getting cars, enjoying the fuck out of it, like a normal human being should in a game that you purchased. Because I've had connection issues before when it comes to Forza Horizon 4, Forza Horizon 5, even in Forza Motorsport back on the 360, when, you know, before I made the switch over to PC. I've had connection issues. That didn't affect me as much as it, like, you know, as it would now. And it's still, even in Forza Horizon 5, I may disconnect. Oh, guess what? I'm not able to play a multiplayer. No worries, I'll just drive around, enjoy myself, enjoy the sights, still just like race AI. You know, it's, the fact of the matter is that I don't need online to play the game that I have. Especially when it's racing. I should not need online. Why is this being exclusively online? I don't need this. And not only that, the grind is fucking stupid too. So, in Forza Motorsports, as well as Forza Horizon, obviously you're going to have like $10 million cars, right? That's something that's expected. However, there's multiple different ways of getting that money. You not only need to like race or all that stuff, right? Which, you know, you get around like 10,000 to 15,000, depending on the amount. But there's also, when you level up, like in Forza Horizon, when you level up, you get wheel spins, which essentially will give you the chance to get a car for free. Or that, or you get money for free, or some other random junk. But it's still the fact that they are willing to just be like, yeah, here's like 500,000 credits that you can use to buy. Or here's a Nissan, you know, here's a Nissan GTR that you don't have. Here you go. And, you know, even outside of that, within Forza Horizon 5, if you create a track and that gets played consistently, you make money off of that too. There's points where if you have like a really good tune, like, because you can modify the vehicles as well as tune them up to fit, you know, certain parameters. If you set that up and more people use it, more people like it, more people, like, you know, actively, you know, share that and use it, you make money off of that. Like, in-game money. Like, there's points where people will have, like, literally max out within the first week because their tune is being used for a seasonal, for a seasonal event, which is normally just like a week-long thing. And they'll max out. They will make awesome maps. Again, max out right there. So the fact of the matter is that in Forza, there's so many ways that you can make money that even if you are just like, you know, even if the payout for the races are like 10, 15,000, you can bring in millions from other stuff. Meanwhile, GT7 is just, oh yeah, you gotta win races. Like, if that's literally the only thing, why am I having to, like, get, like, shit from it? I should at least get enough so I can go and try out the other cars, like, buy the other cars. I don't want to have to drive, like, play the one fucking, like, loop for 40 hours just to get it. And, like, have all the fun sucked out. Like, it's fucking ridiculous when it comes to that. And so, as of right now, Gran Turismo 7 has the Sony's lowest user score ever on Metacritic. Like, the fact of the matter is you got it to the point where the game, a game that so many people enjoyed back on the PS3, back on the PS2, just all the way in the back, it's just so sad. Like, and it's just the egregious disregard for the community by just having such disgusting, like, microtransactions involved. It's ridiculous. Like, for example, before they do the whole latest patch, some of the cars that you can purchase within Gran Turismo 7 were costed 8 times more than what you were able to do on the previous title, on Gran Turismo Sport. And that's if you were to use those microtransactions. So a car that would have costed you, like, maybe, I don't know, like $1 or so in terms of microtransactions, would have costed you 8, maybe even more in Gran Turismo 7. Like, it is just terrible.
Yeah.
And it's just so bad, dude. Like, it's just oh, my bad. It's not 40 hours. It's only 20. My apologies. That's still fucking ridiculous. I don't like shit like that. I really don't. I hate this so much, man. I hate this so much. Because Gran Turismo 7 is still a wonderful game. Like, the driving in that is beautiful. The graphics in there are gorgeous. Like, if it wasn't for the fact that, PlayStations are like, $5,000 at this point. Granted, hyperbole, but still, point still stands. That's stupid expensive.
Nowhere near that. The fuck?
Again, it's hyperbole. Did they, have they reduced in price? Because
What?
like, for the PS5?
No PS5 is selling for 5,000.
Again, hyperbole. What I'm saying is that it's much more than what it should be. That's what I'm saying. But it's still just a fact of,
even scalpers aren't like selling it anywhere near that.
Again, hyperbole.
Hyperbole should never be used.
Well, I mean, it's still just a fact of, like,
hyperbole. If hyperbole is going to be used, it needs to make fucking sense when you consider the fact that the most a PS5 has sold for is like 1,200.
That's still
hyperbole should not be used to make it 5 times more.
Well, it's still a significant amount, but it's still the fact of, like, if PS5, like, if I were to get a PS5 at MSRP, I would have gotten Gran Turismo 7. But the fact of the matter is that Gran Turismo 7 right now is not in the state that I would ever want to touch it. Because of the fact of it takes 20 hours to get, like, one of the high-end cars to drive. And essentially it's a beautiful game. All that's there. But the microtransaction make it so that I will need to essentially double the amount that I've put into the game to buy a car within the game. And it's just like I shouldn't put that much money into the game just to put more money just so I can actually play what I have. Like for Forza Horizon 5, I'll admit I bought the highest amount because I know I was going to play a lot of it. I have put 200 hours into that game, and I've never had to force myself to do that just to get a car. I had fun during that time, and I was getting cars left and right. The fact that this essentially is set up this way is just a disgrace to all racing games, because even the crew 2, which is freaking terrible, has a better system than this, because at least you could freaking get money at a much faster rate in that than in here. It's just I will rant so much about this, but long story short, unless Gran Turismo 7 is able to really get the developers are able to get their shit together and get everything readjusted, notify whoever the higher ups are that this situation that we have must be changed drastically, or this is gonna fail.
I think what's wild to me, right, is that a lot of this happens because the game companies still think players are just gonna accept whatever shit they throw at them. They haven't learned from the EA DICE fiasco with Star Wars.
No, of course not.
And I'm confused as fuck, because if one of the biggest IP is known to man can't fucking get away with it, how do you expect to?
I think the best part is the only reason that because so many people have been shitting on Bungie with their whole microtransaction. It's all that shit's cosmetic. You don't need that.
I disagree with that logic. I hate you. You're an idiot if you're gonna use that.
No, what I'm saying is you don't need it, but it's, again, the microtransaction is still fucking bullshit. I'm not gonna deny the fact of that, but it's not a pay to win stuff.
That's just a straight up lie, considering barrel lengths on the things on ornaments literally adds more range.
Oh fuck!
We've known this for years. You've known this for years. There's literal pay to win in the game.
That's true. I take that back. I definitely take that back. I completely forgot about that, and I stand corrected on that. No, that's still bullshit. But still, microtransactions altogether, pretty fucking bullshit. But it's one thing to have it where it's, there's certain aspects of it where it is cosmetic stuff, which is, again, still bullshit. And then there's others where it's you essentially just decided to become the next Battlefront 2 from EA. And it's we have an entire thing where literally lawsuits were brought in, where the higher-ups from a different conglomerate came in and had to give them a stern warning. It's just... it just sucks. I wonder when we're going to get games when microtransactions are just going to be in the past. I know it's never going to be anytime soon, because regardless of it, even if the majority hates it, there's still going to be that that small minority that are whales when it comes to it. They'll
I don't know why you think it'll ever leave.
It's still just a fact of eventually it gets... it's always a hope, quote unquote, but
it doesn't matter having hope. I don't know why you think it will ever leave.
Because I feel there's definitely a way for people to make money off of that. But again, live service models is now becoming more prevalent.
Well, it doesn't matter if there's other ways for them to make money. The reality is microtransactions make the best money. So why would they get rid of it?
I don't know. Oh well. I blame the free-to-play. No, I'm kidding. But I think overall, it just sucks that, it got to that point where it just is that egregious. again. I just really hope that they get their shit together. I really do. Because if a game is marred by something so overwhelming and it prevents you from enjoying the game, it has to be fixed. It just has to. Or people are not going to like this is just like kind of like what Cyberpunk 2077 did, but in case of bugs instead of like microtransactions. Like it's a wonderful game, but on launch it was so buggy that it did not do well. They were able to fix it. They were able to get majority of the bugs out. Granted, there's still some there, but they got majority of it out. They did a lot of improvements to it, and it's seen as as a good game. Again, there's still some kinks that they need to fix out, but again, they're able to get that fixed. They were able to get that taken care of. No, it's like another No Man's Sky example. Like, yeah, it was shit in the beginning, but then they were able to fix it. They were able to get that process, and they were able to take care of it, and then boom, it's a good game. It's a decent game. It's one to play.
There's a huge difference between No Man's Sky and Gran Turismo.
I know.
We need to stop making comparisons between games that are nowhere near in the same situation.
I mean, I'm just the one. I mean, yeah, granted, it's like they're two different like whole things, and I'm essentially like oversimplifying it to the point where it's just like the concepts, even them being different enough, is still being compared. I'm just hoping that it gets fixed, it gets addressed as soon as possible to kind of just make sure that they can recover from this because I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of fans of Gran Turismo just up and went, nah, I'm good. I'm not going for this. Especially if they're stuck trying to get one
I'm just
car.
curious as to how this was even a thought. Like, they know their main competitor is Forza Horizon, so why is it that in response to Forza Horizon they do something that Forza Horizon's not really doing?
Well, it's primarily because it's not their direct competitor is actually not Forza Horizon, but it's what Forza's actually bringing out, which is Forza Motorsport, because they're a simulation game, like they're a driving sim game. While Forza Horizon is more of a driving arcade game, like it doesn't have the same
But
aspects of it.
regardless, Forza has literally never done their bullshit, so why are they fucking trying to fight that? Why are they even doing things that Forza doesn't do? I don't understand it. Like, if
I
your
don't know.
main competitor isn't doing stupid shit, why are you doing stupid shit?
Who knows?
I think it's just the fact that we haven't had a Forza Motorsports in a while, actually, if I remember correctly.
Well, in that logic, Horizon would be the main competitor then.
Yeah, but just like how that's comparisons,
No one's able to compare Need for Speed to Gran Turismo because even if they're both driving games, they're completely different in the way that they work. And that's why not a lot of people would compare Forza Horizon.
People are comparing Forza versus Gran Turismo because they're the flagship racing exclusives.
Mm.
Please.
I don't know. That's like
The reason why no one compares No Man's Sky and Gran Turismo is because they're completely different situations. Gran Turismo has an issue with how it builds its buying process and microtransactions process. No Man's Sky problem was the fact that it came out missing content. Two very different situations.
Mm-hmm. All right. I mean, it's just one of those things where, just in the end, again with like kind of everything, Gran Turismo just has a lot to work on. Meanwhile, people are like everyone's just kind of like, I wouldn't say jumping ship, but just really kind of like holding off on actually getting it until they get that fixed.
Yeah.
Personally, for
It's
me,
like the Halo thing.
like personally for me, the one thing that I hate the most out of this is the online only mode. Like, why?
I don't know.
Why?
Outriders had the issue too, where Outriders was online only. I don't know if they changed that or not. And people were like, "Oh, well, it's to stop hackers," and I'm like,
No.
again, that's not how that works. Because if Destiny is online only and it has hackers, and it has a far bigger budget than an indie studio, how do you expect a company like the company behind Outriders to even do it with that? I
And
don't understand how it is that people think that when we have examples of online only games that have hackers.
my main question is that does because again, after I played the what's it called, the campaign,
And even then, I
just
don't know why people care about people cheating in a game that is going to be single player. Sure, if they do it during the co-op section, sure, give them flame. But like I generally don't see most people hacking during the co-op section. I can't imagine most people would.
I mean, it's just the fact of like the only reason, and again, the only basis that I would say is if it's in the PvP setting. Like, yeah, 100%, I agree. If you're hacking in co-op, like you're
There's no
scum.
PvP in Outriders.
Exactly like that's the thing. Is like the fact, like the whole fact of that is like, you're not going up against any hackers. So the only thing that could really have a huge impact would be the co-op experience. But even then, you haven't experienced that when you've done it. Granted, again, that's just one aspect of it.
And even then, when I looked at the thing, I very rarely seen people talk about hackers in the Outriders community.
I mean,
And I'm wondering if that's because the hackers just didn't care. There
honestly,
probably is some, because I've seen posts about it.
Yeah.
But it's been nowhere near the amount of other games. So I've got to wonder if the reason is because they just don't care. Because I know for a fact Outriders could easily be hacked or cheated through.
I think the one thing is that because it doesn't give anybody the distinct disadvantage, because you're not going up against anybody like at all, because it's, again, like you said, the only multiplayer aspect of it is co-op. There's no PvP. So unless you're going up against a hacker, you're likely not going to really have that much of a complaint to give. Like, sure, there's going to be people who are going to say, like, oh, this kind of just ruined the experience for me. And it's understandable. The hacking in a game will ruin it. Exploiting in it, up to a certain extent, will ruin it. But if that's, but that's a very small minority when it comes into co-op play. A lot of people are going to just look the other way type deal because, again, they're getting the benefit out of it. And it's likely that they aren't going to have a huge shitfest over it. Because I can guarantee you there's going to be very few times that you're going to have somebody on the hackers team that's going to complain. It's a very, yeah, you're going to have that, but it's going to be very small compared to the people who are going against that. So I think that might be the one thing is that there may be a lot of hackers. I'm not going to say a lot of hackers, but there may be, a good portion of hackers in there, but because they're not going up against anyone in particular, not many people are going to be like, oh, this is bullshit. I'm not having fun. Unless, they're just hogging all the kills and all that. And they're just hogging everything. But even then, if I remember correctly from the times that we played, gears, you can pick up the gear and it's always, isn't it unique? It's not something that you can pick up from someone else.
No, gear is personal loot.
Yeah. So in the end,
I think the thing about Outriders is that I could only really see someone hacking in Outriders if the time on expeditions was still on there. But ever since the New Horizons update, it's no longer even a thing because expeditions are no longer timed like they used to be.
I mean, yeah, that I mean that's like the only thing that could ever be a big thing on that, which I'm very glad that they removed, because again, that removes the incentive. And I think the one thing is that the lack of an incentive is what discourages hackers, because you always want to get that unfair advantage, or you want to get ahead of the competition. But if you remove, if there's no PvP, or no one to play the PvP, for example, hackers are not going to see that because it's no profit involved. No one's going to go for that. Just like in Outriders. Because they removed the timer, there isn't any stress. So there's no one going to be like, oh, I really need to do this a lot faster. So there's not going to be much of a hacking community going for that. It's just, as long as there is a reason to get the advantage, a hacker will find an opportunity for that. That's just kind of how business is. But, I'm so glad, like overall, it's just, when it comes to the whole hacking thing, I always find it funny when people are like, oh, this is gonna work. It's like, no, it's not. It's not. Like the whole, like, for Valorant, for example, they have it where, like, you have a kernel, like a Vanguard anti-cheat that's kernel based, which people have been able to circumvent with their hacks.
Yeah.
Which is fucking stupid. Because of the fact of, oh, I just essentially set something up that is literally ingrained into the hardware of the, in the base of the software. It's not like, oh, it's just like, running on the third, it's like, it literally is enabled when it's started up. And you have to reset if you ever close, like, if you close it out, you have to restart the entire computer to bring it back. And it's like, yeah, that doesn't matter. Doesn't care. And the best thing is that I've even had times where the Vanguard would crash, right? But I would still be able to play. I would just minimize the crash notification. I could still play without any problems. It's like, it's always great to see when it comes to digital, like, because technically this is that's considered digital warfare as of right now, because like the battleground of the whole thing, it's essentially, if you put up a wall, someone's gonna find a way around it.
Yeah.
That's just how technology is. That's how everything is.
Yep.
I just, one of these days, I still remember but the best thing is, though, one thing that I do like, though, is when anti-cheat, they don't outright ban hackers, they fuck with them. Like, for example, what happens with Warzone's anti-cheat. Because if it detects somebody is using, like, aim hacks, wall hacks, or something, their bullets are Nerf bullets, meaning they do no damage. And, like, there's, like, examples of that, like, all over YouTube, all over that, and it's friggin' hilarious, because you have, like, people just, like, complaining about, it's like, dude, my bullet, like, this guy's gun's got Nerf and all this stuff, and it's like, and then Warzone, or, like, the guys who are developing the anti-cheats, like, yeah, by the way, if you have been detected using, any type of any form of cheating, yeah, we decided to put in the feature where your bullets do nothing. And it's like, oh, That's unfortunate. You just called yourself out. It's what they did back with Far Cry 4, because what they did was on the not the day 0 but the day 1 patch. They added
Yeah, I
in
remember that.
Yep, it was so good. They
And
add
how
that.
like the FOV slider wasn't in it.
And it was just like a warped thing, and then oh, who was it? Was it the developers, or was it Ubisoft themselves is saying like, "Oh, by the way, the
Well,
FOV."
that's not what happened. Someone tweeted at them telling them that there's no FOV slider in the game, and the Twitter account replied to them saying that they've just revealed themselves as a pirater because the version that didn't have it was the pirated version.
Yep.
And it was in that moment that person really just revealed themselves to be a scumbag.
It's like, oh fuck, that's unfortunate. But but other ones I still like. I think my personal favorite for like if you for pirating, if you pirate Alan Wake, you get an eye patch. Like Alan Wake just gets an eye patch. It's great. Like it doesn't negatively impact anything. Like you don't like lose anything or anything of that sort. It's just you get an eye patch. That's it.
Yeah. Eye
Like,
patches.
Because it's like Remedy. It's like look. I understand that you like the game. Like do you want to play the game? We appreciate that, but you did pirate it, so we're gonna just give you an eye patch. Just just to let you know that we know. But hopefully you enjoy. But it's also kind of interesting because when it comes to like pirating and all that, it's one of those things where it can be considered like in certain areas, like people are saying like pirating is better because based around the DRM system that they use. And I'm just thinking like because a lot of the times it's it's just like added bloatware that really doesn't do much, and there's been people have like tested it out and saw that like that DRM does also cause performance issues as well. And so it's like it's like you want to go through it the legit way, but it's like you are really kind of. And it sucks too because of the fact of like you want to play the game, you want to help the developers, but it's like the DRM. I know there's some people like, and it's always interesting when people are like, "Oh, pirating is literally going to be the thing that's like is the downfall for this game," and it's just like, a lot of the times. I mean, granted, this is not like all the time, but like a certain amount of times, a lot of those pirates, like if they see the game is good, they'll just they'll buy the game.
Kind of reminds me of Game Pass somewhat.
Oh yeah, honestly, I think the fact of Game Pass. I mean, granted, it's like 15, like you have to like shell out $15, but hey, $15 for like literally hundreds of thousands of games, hundreds of games. Let's be more conservative on that one. Like hundreds of games, especially like all Microsoft AAA titles at your as well as on top of other things for $15. Honestly, I wouldn't say that's like it's not gonna like solve piracy, but it's like it's gonna likely bring a little bit of that down because you're not buying the game out like the game outright. Granted, there's gonna be like other situations involved with that, but that's just kind of how it is.
Yeah.
But that being said, we kind of just like went off on like 3-4 different things.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but with that being said, I think that's it on my end. Did you have anything that you wanted to talk about?
Not really. I can't really think of anything other than maybe talking about the developers that were shitting on Elden Ring, but
Oh, right. I almost forgot about that. Why don't you actually end off on that? Because that's actually kind of interesting when it comes to that. Because especially with like Elden Ring being like essentially like a success story, and people memeing that it's like, oh, single player games are going to be the death of EA. Like it's going to be like the death of the video games. And then they just compare it between Battlefield for 2042 and Elden Ring, and they're just like the amount of people playing.
yeah.
It's always nice when people are just like, yeah, karma's a bitch, and it was not for you. Personally, for me, I think like if people shit on other people's creations, um, they should really just eat an egg and stay quiet. Because the one thing is like regardless of the creation itself, whether it is a cosplay, you know, a fan game, a mod, or even a game itself, shitting on the game does really nothing to help you. Like, sure,
Yeah,
it's
so
good.
let me go ahead and read these tweets real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
So this was so I think these were developers from Ubisoft and Gorilla. Whereas the first one was like the fact that Elden Ring scored a 97 Metacritic is proof that reviewers don't give a flaming poop about game UX. My life is a lie. Reply, nor PC graphics stability and performance, apparently. And then another play, nor quest design, really. Now that's a straight up lie. People do care about the stability and performance.
100%.
Graphics, gamers have been telling you for a very long fucking time that they don't really care about the graphics so long as the art style's good.
Mm-hmm.
We've been telling you that for a long time.
Very much
Crazy
true.
that you've just barely gotten that into your fucking head.
I don't care if the game looks
Stability
pretty.
and performance? Are you kidding me? There was a lot of people complaining about the performance on PC. Are you fucking dumb?
It's a From Software game. People are definitely going to complain about it. Like that's literally what.
And game UX. So let's go ahead and talk about UX. UX is basically just like the player experience.
Yeah, the user experience.
Yeah, the user experience.
I actually.
The only reason the user experience would be bad for you is if you are fucking dumb. People who are saying, "Oh, the game doesn't tell you where to go." The game straight up does.
It's like,
The
hey,
game, if you talk to the NPCs like a smart person, the game tells you where to go. Like literally, the first NPC you talk to after you get out of the first area tells you where to go.
I always wonder when people are like, "Oh yeah,"
and he teaches you to touch and like the game teaches you to touch graces so that you can go and do all these different things. And then one of the graces you get to before the castle has you meet with an important NPC that gives you your horse. Wow, crazy that the game tells you to do a mechanic, and then doing that mechanic gets you the important thing. And then after a little bit of time playing, that NPC takes you to your hub world, in which case, if you talk to the NPCs in the hub world, you know where to go after you beat the first two bosses. I know it's a hard concept, but when you pick up the maps to reveal the map around the world, the game legitimately has arrows pointing to where you need to go.
Oh, those are arrows? Okay. I mean, like, they look like arrows. Personally, this is just, like, for me looking at other,
The
like,
game
streams.
straight up tells you what to do and where to go, and yet these developers are complaining about the user experience as if the game doesn't help you or tell you enough information. The game tells you everything.
I don't
As
know
so
what
long
type
as
of
you're
gun-
willing to fucking dive into it and not play like a brain dead moron who doesn't want to interact with anything. If you're gonna play the game and not interact with the NPCs or anything that the game provides you, no shit you're gonna get lost. The game doesn't hold your hand like other games. It's not here to coddle you like the little child you are. bro, like these developers are fucking ridiculous. And then they're like talking about quest design. Oh, really? So your quest design of escorting someone across the entire map is so much better than being told, oh, go to the castle and fight a boss.
Or finding 5 billion fucking things all over the goddamn map.
And I didn't know collecting 500 items in order to unlock an upgrade was better quest design than being told, oh, hey, go to this area, get the weapon, and come back to go ahead and unlock the next part of my quest was better. I had no fucking clue.
Man, fetch quests? Nah, we gotta have you do collectibles. We're gonna have you do all 500 of them. Why? Because you get this cool item.
It's fucking wild to me how, like, these people think that these things make sense. And it's like, just please stop. You're a game developer, but you've just made it clear you've got no clue what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Your whole thing of, like, game design doesn't really
Work.
doesn't really make sense when you consider the fact that people complain about your game design.
Mm-hmm. He who lives in a glass house should not be the one to throw stones. And unfortunately, Ubisoft does not understand they're in a fucking glass house. Like, it's like I still found it freaking hilarious. This, like, the amount of shit that you have to collect in the new Assassin's Creed games. Like, I thought it was a pain in the ass back when it was in Revelations and shit. Back then, it was a pain in the ass. And, like, the only one that had, like, somewhat of a fun collectible was, I think, I think maybe Assassin's Creed 2. And because most of it was, like, you essentially just building your city. That was like the whole thing. Like, you get, like, the collectibles, like all the stuff that you get is literally you just building your fucking city. And I personally found that fun. That was great. I like 100%. I built the entire damn thing. I upgraded everything. But now it's just like, oh yeah, we have like stashed like 5,000 things for, like, you know, sectioned off in like different areas. Find those and you can actually get something really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, bro, you fucking just went so far down to the point where I'm just like, dude, this is ridiculous. Like, I should not have to deal with like shit like that. Like, personally, for me, I think that's a fucking joke. Like, what that is a joke to me. And it's fucking depressing. So, if you are an aspiring game creator, don't put so many collectible shit. Okay? Maybe 5 or 6. I'll take that. That sounds reasonable. Like, or even better, if it needs to be collectible, make it something very friggin' obvious that shows up on the map. That I don't have to go into like 5, like, you know, have to like do a jumping puzzle to like a mechanic simulator to stuff, and it's like, like, no, I don't want that. I don't want any of that. That's shit's stupid. Like the way that fucking Bungie does it is the way that I would want it. Because it's like, oh hey, here's like 9 or 10 collectibles that you can grab for an achievement. Go right ahead. Oh, is it necessary? No, it's not like you get anything, like, you know, important. We just have it here because we can. And it's just like, god damn it, dude. Look, why? With that being said,
Yeah.
final word that I want to say. If you criticize anybody's work, unless you're the one who created it, you have no right to criticize it.
Also, you know what? Actually, I want to mention something. It's fucking hilarious to me that Ubisoft's like, oh, people don't care about performance issues. Your fucking games run like garbage on PC. Have fucking dare you?
You know, I almost kind of forgot that because the last time I played a game from Ubisoft on PC,
How fucking
was-
dare this company, whose every game they make runs like shit on PC, dare criticize another company for that? How fucking dare they?
They have balls, just no brains. That's why they think the user experience is shit.
Dude, it's fucking so wild to think about that. That company. Oh my god.
But yeah, don't shit on games or any creation that's not yours. Unless it's like,
Unless it's genuinely worse than yours.
yeah, unless it's like a criticism, like an actual criticism that they can learn from.
Yeah.
Especially if your fucking the shit that you're criticizing is significantly better than your ass. Whatever you fucking create or whatever you're part of. Alright? That's the one thing. If you fucking... That shows how small of a penis you have, my guy. If you are that insecure, if you're that insecure that you have to criticize something that someone else's success is based on, and you do not do anything to get to that point, you have no fucking right. And you've lost all respect for me. Like, unless that shit is worse than what you have created, like, what you and everyone else in this entire world can say was shit about it and give constructive criticism to it, you should not say shit.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to give constructive criticism, like the fact of me shitting on Gran Turismo because of the fact that they have essentially limited their user experience to essentially microtransactions to actually be able to enjoy the higher end cars, and they need to get that fixed. Because I remember going to other games that show much better, much better ratings and higher playability. Even though I can't make it, everyone fucking hates it. That's valid. You developers, the ones that are making the fucking games that are literally considered worse, have nothing. You have not made that you're criticizing. You've made something worse. But with that being said, I'm gonna end it off here. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you do want to see more, do hit the follow button as well as hit the notification so when I go live, be the first to find out. We normally do this on a monthly basis, so you might want to keep an eye out for that. Also hit that little bell thing there, just so you can be up to date for that. Now with that being said, my name is Toxic, it's Seth, and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. I'll see you in the next episode.
Yeah.